All right, I think we are live. My name is Alex with Premier Credit Consulting. I am with Justin Ruiz of One Trust Home Loans. How you doing, Justin?
Good. How are you, Alex?
Doing well, man. I'm so glad that you were willing to do this with me today. We had an awesome conversation. It must have been a month or two ago, and the conversation was actually about marketing videos. I don't know if you remember the video idea that we were discussing about you coming in and wrapping somebody up.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
We have to record that. And I think I'm going to take one of my sales guys and you can just destroy them, and it would be so much fun to watch. But we were talking about that. And one other thing that we were talking about was, your experience as a wrestler, and kind of the comparisons as you made the jump into the mortgage world. And I wanted to really touch on that today. And so why don't you kind of give everybody just kind of a history of you as both a mortgage professional, but also your wrestling career as well.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as mortgages, I've been in the industry for the last little over 4 years. It's kind of funny. I got in the mortgage industry because one of my buddies I grew up with, we met each other in the second grade and been friends ever since then. So now, I'm getting older. It's crazy that I have a friend that I've known for over 30 years. And so I work for him on his team. And then, recently I decided to go out and originate and do my own thing, so now I'm a loan officer in his branch, and it's been really good. It was great to learn from him and have that experience and be able to get my hands on a lot of files, helping him with his production. But it's been good making the transition to where it's all on me again, just kind of like wrestling. And then to give you a little background on my wrestling career. So I started in the 8th grade, just took to the sport, just loved it. When I started, I had an older brother that wrestled as well. And so I always we were about the same size, had a partner that was kind of built in the house. We had a wrestling mat in our basement. So we were always like scrapping and stuff. So I got 4th my freshman year in the state tournament. I won the state tournament the next 3 years. I won the national tournament. I was in the Olympic styles. I won the national tournament in high school, folk style wrestling. And I got recruited by a whole bunch of colleges. Decided to go to University of Nebraska is where I ended up doing my college career. I was All-American my freshman and sophomore year. And then I left Nebraska to go compete internationally. So then I was on the international circuit for quite a while. I was on the national team for 10 years, won the U.S. Open 7 times, made 6 world teams, got a world bronze medal, was the best I did at the world championships. And we actually won the world championships as a team 1 year. It's the only time it's ever been done in the history of the United States. So that was a pretty special team, and just was able to wrestle with some amazing individuals. And, they've gone on and had a lot of success in their respective careers as well. So wrestling has been great to me. I love it. I'll still do coaching here and there. I help out with youth. I still go in and every now and then help out with the college here in Utah Valley University. So it's been a big part of my life.
I love it. And if you ever need to be really psyched up for a big day, go find Justin on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. I think I don't know, maybe it'll make you feel bad about yourself. One of the two things is going to happen, because when I'm rolling out of bed and feeling like it's too early and, kids and dogs are barking, all that kind of stuff, and I open my phone and there's Justin with a sweat ring. He's been working out for 2 hours already. And he just looks like he's been killing it and crushing his day. It's kind of cool to see, definitely motivating for me. And, there are so many kind of comparisons between, obviously the discipline and trying to execute at a high level, things that you've done in your wrestling career. And now you're taking that step into the mortgage side as an originator. So tell me, what are some comparisons that you can draw from your wrestling career that you can now execute as a mortgage professional?
Yeah, I think one of the things is in mortgage, you obviously work with the team, but a lot of it comes and rests on your shoulders as far as your performance with people, and really it comes down to hard work. In wrestling, wins aren't just going to fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when the mortgage, like deals aren't just going to fall out of the sky. You're going to have to go work for them. You're going to have to earn for them, go earn them. So there's just a lot of hard work that goes into it. And I think when people want to have an easy path, that's when you get in trouble. Like if you go into the sport of wrestling and you're like, oh, I want the easy path. It's like, well, you're going to be miserable because it's not easy. And if you're going easy on yourself, then when you actually compete, it's going to be miserable because you're not going to be in shape. You're not going to have the tools you need. You're just not going to be where you need to be. And I feel like the same thing in mortgage. If you're just like, oh, I'm just going to take it easy. It's like, well, that's all right. You can take it easy, but then you're not going to have any business. So I would say those are two. The biggest comparison is just there's a lot of work that goes into both. And you always got to be ready. Always got to be ready for the next one, right? Like, let's say, you have an outstanding year in wrestling and you win all these matches. It doesn't matter. Like the calendar turns over, you're at the next tournament. Everybody's hungry. Everybody wants to win. And I think it's the same thing in the mortgage industry. Like just because you had a great year last year, you can't sit on that accomplishment and then just expect the next year to be better just because you had a good year last year. It's always going to be, hey, go out and do the work.
I think that actually speaks volumes. I've been bit by that in the past. I know that I have a lot of close friends in mortgage and in real estate who have been bit by that as well. They have a good year, they have a good quarter, and they kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit. And a lot of the things that got them to that point, they stopped doing, a lot of the small things. And, I look back at my high school career when I was playing basketball and, I remember talking to my basketball coach, and we talked about this before we started recording, which was, I was asking, how can I get in better shape? How can I be more of an athlete? And he pointed to the wrestling room, and he's like, you got to go work there, if that's really what you want. And I remember thinking like, oh man, that's a big ask. Those guys are crazy is kind of what I thought. Like there's us running, laps and playing basketball. And then there's those guys who look like they're just torturing themselves. And now as, a professional, and I've been doing this for a long time, I see it. I see it with my team. I see it with my partners in the industry. There is kind of that next level that you got to get to, and you got to be a little bit crazy. You got to be able to say, hey, just because I'm at this level, doesn't mean that I'm going to just stay here forever, right? Like you said, the calendar turns over, the month is over, you close out your pipeline. Well, if you got nothing else coming up, you're hurting, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great way to put that. And for you were able to go from obviously success in high school to college to the national stage to the international stage. As a mortgage professional, it's a little bit different. But what can you take from that experience, going from level, and always leveling up in the wrestling world to trying to do that as a new loan originator and a mortgage professional?
Yeah, I think some things, and I look at life a lot because I have so much time with wrestling. Like the world makes more sense when I compare it to that, So there's some principles. I would think the one that was the hugest takeaway when I was an athlete that I think applies to any industry, is just in the wrestling room you'll have a group of athletes, and you might have aspirations to be a state champ, national champ, world champ, Olympic champ, whatever the case may be. And what my observation is if you want to hit those next levels, you need to be outworking everybody in your room. Yeah. Like if you're not able to outwork everybody in your room, then you're kind of being, I guess, a little disingenuous telling yourself that, oh, I'm going to be the best in the world when, you're the first one to leave the practice room. And so that is one thing, is just if you want to be the best, you're going to have to outwork your immediate peers that are in your vicinity, at the very least to be great. So I would say that's one, is just putting in the work. And again, that doesn't mean like there's overtraining as well and you hurt yourself. And I think the same thing can go in work where you're too overboard, and then you have a lot of other things that may suffer, your relationships, your health, just other things that are important as well. So you definitely have to find a way to balance that. But I think that's the one thing, is find ways. And it doesn't necessarily need to be that like, oh, hey, I have to stay in the office till I'm the very last one. Maybe it's like, oh, well, this is what I do a little different. I'm a little smarter with my marketing. or, you know, I take a little bit extra time on the weekend where I have carved out where I'm going to work. A lot of people won't. So I think part of that too, what it does is it not only develops your skill set, it also develops your mindset, because so much in wrestling, so much in life, so much in business is just your belief, and actually having that belief that you're going to succeed. So by outworking other people and putting those reps and doing those things, you actually start to believe like, oh, I should be here. I belong here. I put the work and I deserve this success. And I think that carries over into business as well, where you're like, after you're doing the work, you're doing the right things, just knowing it's like, well, if I put things in one end of the funnel, it's going to come out the other end. It has to at some point.
Yeah. And I've worked with you, and I've worked with John, and I worked with your team, you know, for the past 6 or 7 years. I mean, it's been a while. And I think one of the most consistent things I could say about you guys is that you always have a plan. You know, if you talk to you or Nate or John or anybody, it's all about the plan. It's all about the execution. You know, nothing is ever just, you know, no day is lost, I feel. And that's something that you guys execute on a high level with. So I think that you nailed it with that. I know that for me, one of the biggest game changers was seeing other people's hustle in the industry. In fact, you know, almost 8 years ago, I remember going in, somebody that works in your branch, Brock Lassick, and going and meeting with him and recognizing, you know, we're similar age, and you know, this kid's hustling and I want to hustle, you know, and I feel that way about you, and I feel that way about a lot of the people over there in your branch, and just being able to try to identify and then hustle and then compete. You know, those are things that I think sometimes people miss in this industry. It is a highly competitive industry, and it can be a benefit if you use it that way. So I think you nailed it on the head with that. But you're a fairly new loan originator, right? I mean, what, last 6 months or a year?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So there are a lot of new people stepping into the space. They're stepping into the mortgage space. They want to be a real estate agent. A lot of them have the wrong mindset, for sure. They think it's going to be a cakewalk and they're just going to be cashing checks. But, you know, if you were to go through that new process again of being an originator or a loan officer, or I'm sorry, a real estate agent, you know, what advice would you have? What would you tell yourself or somebody new to the industry?
I would say just be consistent, you know, just have that hard work, be consistent, and be patient as well. Because sometimes in this industry, you might be grinding and grinding and grinding. It takes several months to start have anything in your pipeline starting to pop. I started in the winter months. So, you know, I'm starting in December, January, where there's not a whole lot of just movement in the market, and you're following up with people, you're trying to get stuff going, you have pre-approvals, and then you're like, dang, you know, I've got these leads, I've got these people pre-approved and just waiting for deals to come through. But you just got to be patient, and then they'll eventually start popping. And so now I'm starting to see the benefit from that hard work that I was putting in earlier in the year. And, but I would just say, you know, be consistent. Have one thing that's been great is just having numbers that you're going to hit every day. Like, have a certain amount of number of calls you're going to do, have a certain amount of face-to-faces, have a certain amount of people you're trying to talk to, have some specific goals and specific activities, and don't leave until you get all those in. Like, if you have a certain amount of reps, get all the reps in, you know, and try to do one more if you can, or 10 more, or whatever the case may be. But I think that's the thing, because people get busy with fires, they get busy with this and that, and then they stop calling people, or, you know, whatever. And some people, they don't call as much. Maybe they text or email, or whatever the case may be, whatever you're doing to prospect. Just having a certain number and keep making sure you're hitting that. And then if you do that, then the other things kind of fall in place.
Yeah, dude, perfect advice. I can definitely stand as a witness to what you've been able to do over the last 4 years, and now you stepping into the origination process. Nobody has systems like you guys. You're kicking butt. I love working and seeing kind of what you guys are always cooking up over there. And, you know, I keep watching your videos on Facebook. I'm telling you guys, if you want to get motivated, you got to go check out Justin's info. But what big things do you have on the horizon? What's next for you? You know, do you have targets when it comes to your own personal production? Are you trying to build a team? I mean, tell me a little bit more about what you're striving for individually as a mortgage pro.
Yeah, what my goal is right now is, so I work out of the branch up in South Jordan. And my goal is to build up production to the point where I can open a branch down in Utah County, because that's where I live. I live down in Springville, so it's quite a bit of a commute every day. And I end up meeting with most of my clients down in Utah County anyways. But that's what my goal is to just ramp up production and get to a spot where I can get the company to pay for a branch down in Utah County and work on crushing it down there.
I love it, dude. Well, we didn't talk anything at all about credit repair, which is kind of refreshing. I'm not going to lie. I talked about it all day long.
Well, let me do this. Let me plug you. Alex and his team, they're awesome. I've used them over the years and they do a great job. We've had people that they were like, wouldn't have had any other chance to be able to buy a home if they wouldn't work with you and your team. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And the same thing. I mean, you guys got good systems and follow up, and you're good at what you do, and that helps us do our job as well. So thank you.
I love it. Well, I'm going to tell you what, the next guy on my team that doesn't hit his sales targets is going to be that person in our wrestling video that you get to roll up. I'm pretty stoked to see that. That'll be pretty great. But thank you so much, Justin, for doing this. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we sign off?
No, not really. Just thanks. And anybody watching, just keep grinding away. It's like, this is I think sometimes people give themselves too short of a timeline to succeed. Like if you look at anybody that's world-class, it's going to take at least a decade. And so there might be new originators, there might be new real estate agents, and they're thinking like, oh man, it's been 6 months and I'm not the best guy out there. It's just like, well, yeah, it's going to take a while. I mean, for most people, it's going to take about a decade or so to be really good at something or great. So I just say, hey, if you're making up your mind to be in these industries, just if you have a mindset of the long haul, then you're going to be able to take the good times and the bad, because when you are trying to be good at something, there are great times and there are really bad times. But just keep moving forward is going to help you get to eventually where you want to be.
I love it, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. If you guys have any questions on mortgages, Justin Ruiz over at One Trust Home Loans, he's going to be having his own branch sooner than you know down in Utah County. And if you need help with credit challenges, or if you have clients that need help with credit challenges, obviously we'd love to help. Justin, thanks so much for doing this. And I hope everybody has a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon, Justin.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Take care.
You too.